Hello and welcome back to Crit and Crit. I'm Sint,
I'm Axion.
and we are continuing our discussion of Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn, The Well of Ascension while we play through The Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Bats seasons.
Oracle of Bats. Oh, I'm gonna die.
I mean, according to DC, there is an Oracle of Bats. It's Barbara Gordon.
Heh.
Anyway, last time we went over a very ramshackle, piecemeal summary of the plot. We're going to go over characters this time, and we're going to gloss over most of them because most of them are pretty similar to how they were last book. We'll update changes as we need to, but we're mostly going to focus on the handful who we didn't talk about last time or major changes have happened to.
Yep. Which basically means, obviously, we should start with Vin.
Vin is a lot more confident in her abilities as a Mistborn than she was last time. She's no longer the frightened, shrinking violet urchin that we met. She is a force of nature and kind of terrifying.
As we said in the last series, she's the ultimate fantasy. She gets the rich, attractive, loved one, and she gets to kick ass.
Yeah, get you someone who could have both, but that's actually her major issue this entire time, is which is she? She doesn't really know who she is because, well, she's been a street urchin for so long, and then she was learning to pretend to be a noble, but then she only did that for a few months, but that seems to be the part of her that Ellen likes, and she's not... all that going on. So there's a lot of, who am I? Yep. What am I? Can I really do both? Can I really be both? Do I deserve both? I mean, Ellen deserves better than me, so, inferiority complexes are always good, too. She's still dealing with her paranoia, but being proven increasingly correct. And it's always horrifying when you have somebody as capable as Vin with the dearth of confidence that Vin has, because it's really easy to take advantage of someone in that mindset. She's very lucky that she met Kelsier's crew and Ellen, because they're not the kind of people who would do that. And that's probably the main reason she stays sane.
She's also dealing with a lot of other problems in this book. She's seeing things that she's not certain are there. She's hearing strange noises that she doesn't know what's causing them. And a lot of the story spends a lot of time, as you said, with her anxieties, but also focusing on her understandable concern for her own sanity. And she spends a lot of time introspecting on her own mental state as well as that of her emotional state and her relationship to her companions.
Well, she also doesn't really take the best physical care of herself, like in typical Alamancer fashion. Yeah, nearly died. I'm gonna go take some pewter and not sleep properly for the next 3 days. Then you can't keep doing that. Yes, I can.
You can't
doing
stop
it right
me.
Now.
You can't stop me, literally. You cannot stop me.
But yeah, so while a group respects and cares for her, it's not much they can. There's just not really much they can do to help her, since she doesn't always open up with these things. Also struggling a lot with having to deal with Orsur. Ellen wants her to keep him with her, so she has, protection. She's like, I don't need it. I also don't like him. He killed Kelsier. No, he didn't. The Lord Ruler. Well, he ate Kelsier. That's how Condra... It's an uphill battle.
And a lot of time is spent on their relationship, so I think it's a good time to jump over to Orsur when we're done with Vin.
Yeah. I would have said Ellen after Vin, but we can do Orsur instead. But Vin is also doing more research, which everybody comments on. Too much to her irritation, and she keeps reading things about the Well of Ascension and the Hero of Ages, and possibly due to the strange things she's been hearing, she's becoming more and more convinced that she needs to be finding these things, which ultimately leads us to major problems. But it's not as though she's doing these things selfishly, which almost makes it worse when it goes wrong.
Get off me!
Anyway, Orsur.
So Orsur is the Kendra who was hired by Kelsier to imitate Lord Renew.
Although we should probably be more accurate, because Orsur is only around for a couple of chapters before he is unknowingly, to us, replaced by Tensoon. So we're really talking about Tensoon.
Yeah. For the majority of the story, we are actually dealing with Tensoon. And as a result, it's kind of difficult to make an express reading of his character, because we don't know how much of his character is him playing the part of Orsur, and how much is his actual personality, and him being... And even if they're both, because Vin didn't see enough of Orsur as himself before he dies to really tell the difference. That's not what I meant to do. Which is part of how he's able to fool her, in addition to just being an exceptionally good mimic, as most Canva are. Might be able to reach that, am I? So we don't know if what we're seeing throughout most of the story is what Tensoon normally would behave as, and taking advantage of the fact that Vin doesn't know that, or if he's behaving as Orsur would as part of the act that he's putting on. Okay, I need a ranged weapon to hit that with. Because it's just out of range from my sword. There we go. And that is part of the difficulty of engaging with the Kandra, even in-universe, is because of their natures and the sorts of duties they take on. They wear so many disguises and so many aliases that it's difficult to know when you're dealing with their genuine personality. And Vin struggles with this as much as she does with every other aspect of interacting with Orsur/Tensoon.
Yep.
Oh, there's an up here.
Yeah. It does not help that, Vin has accidentally, or without that she cares, deeply insulted the Kandra because not being comfortable with, oh yes, we have to consume bones to be able to be someone. Okay, here, be a dog. This is deeply, deeply insulting to Orsur, and he tells her this before he starts the process of changing. Not that he ever gets to finish it. And Tensoon shares this opinion. I don't believe Vin meant the insult, but I don't think she cares that once it was explained to her. So, there's that.
Yep.
But
it takes a while for Vin to come around to not only understanding why it was insulting, but actually caring that she was being insulting, and she does eventually apologize, and Tensoon does eventually come around to it, or at least acts like he does, due to some of the advantages that that particular form provides.
He is a very sarcastic character once he finally starts to open up, and it's great. A very bleak sense of humor, which is probably not unexpected given the nature of how Khandra take form. But he's a very creative thinker, and does actually seem to appreciate the chance to be able to open up to someone who knows what he is and is curious about them, though with a considerable amount of reticence because there are certain things that he is not allowed to reveal, which he ends up doing anyway, inadvertently. But yeah, he's real interesting.
Alright, so we stalled a bit, but probably time to talk about Elend.
I still like Elend, but he is showing the problem of putting idealists in charge in a situation where idealism is a nice desire. The middle of a war and a siege is probably not the best time to have someone who really wants to hear everyone's opinion. Though Ellen would argue that, that's kind of a time you would need it, because if you pick and choose when you're going to hold your ideals, do you really have them? Ellen continues to be a good-hearted man, rather naive, and this is used against him. He does learn to become a more stern ruler, but not in time to actually fix things. And yeah, he also struggles with a major inferiority complex, no doubt due to growing up in proximity to Straff. But it does mean that he and Vin are very well matched in terms of, I don't think I'm good enough for the other one. They both say at the same time, thinking the other one doesn't think that.
Okay, I'm guessing only one of you is real. How do I tell? Or I get killed.
That one might have been.
No, the damage they can do is always real. But I can only hurt the real one.
But yeah, Elend is a lot craftier than people give him credit for, though not always crafty enough to see when things are going to directly harm him. He did not see it coming when, the vote of no confidence clause he put into the Constitution was going to be used against him when people were frustrated with how long he was taking to come to a decision about what to do with the... So, yeah. To his credit, he tries to hold to these ideals even when they work against him, but it does mean that we put a lot of wasted energy into a system that ultimately rejects the protagonists, only for Vin to just reconquer the city anyway and say, no, he's in charge, shut up. Which, again, goes against the whole thing that he was hoping for, but by that point he's kind of learned that, emergencies happen.
As you do. I'm going to spend most of this video just going beep, 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 beep.
Yep. I do still like when Tyndall points out that you've let me insult you for the past, this entire conversation, but the second I speak out against Vin, you tell me to knock it off. He does care about her very much.
Yep. But I don't think that was ever really in doubt. I just solved this. Where am I supposed to go to? Annoying. Speaking of Tindwyl,
Tindwyl is a fellow terrace keeper of Sazed's. She, unlike Sazed, was not sterilized. Quite the opposite. She was part of the Lord Ruler's breeding program. Which, several concerns in that statement alone.
I did it again. She's a very intelligent woman, but she's also very direct. And Sazed invited her to come to Luthadel to help Ellen become a better king. And she takes that responsibility very, very seriously.
Yep. She does know how to moderate her approach. Like, Vin does call her on it. Like, why are you so harsh with Ellen, but you're so gentle with me? Ellen was spoiled. I think you've had enough being mistreated in your life.
Yep. She's not unkind without reason. I think that was the wrong way anyway. Yep, we need to go this way. We learn that, well, we eventually learn that she has a soft spot for Sazed, even as she is frustrated with him and his tendency to ignore the rules and to meddle. In that she does see him as a very respectable and very valued member of the Keepers, and that her frustration with him not following the rules mostly comes from the fact that not following the rules got him exiled, and she believes that he could be a very good leader among the Terrace if he'd, play by the rules, instead of being stubborn and getting involved in things he doesn't need to be involved with, and getting himself exiled. Which, there's a logic to that.
Yep,
but as Sazed himself points out, if he'd done that, he would not have provided the aid that was needed in the first book that you could very much justify as turn the tide of the fight. Such as rescuing Vin from prison. Or from the Lord Ruler's prison. If he'd been following the rules, he would not have been there to save her.
Yep.
That said, she has a soft spot for him, and
as Breeze figures out, due to Soothers being really good at reading people's emotions, more than a soft spot.
Alright.
Not that this ends well, given how the Siege of Luthadel ultimately ends.
Yep. Unfortunately, Tindwyl does not make it through the end of the story. She is killed in the Siege of Luthadel. We don't even get to actually see her die. We just see Sazed find her body in a section of the city that got overrun. So we don't actually see her final moments.
Speaking of Sazed,
Yep. Let's have a look at Sazed.
he hasn't actually changed too much. Like, he's happy to not have to, be a servant anymore, but he does miss everybody in Luthadel and feels bad about the fact that he's been avoiding them, but also wants to move on to, doing what he feels he's supposed to be doing, which is, teaching, discovering that the Ska don't actually want to be taught. So, that's always fun. He comes back. Tindwyl does make him feel rather awkward about, the fact that he's not doing the things that he's, quote, supposed to be doing, and that he's kind of obsessed with this whole Hero of Ages stuff. But how he changes the most, I think, is his reaction to Tindwyl's death. Sazed, as a keeper, was responsible for keeping track of religions. He claimed to believe in all of them, but he didn't really follow any of them. But he always tried to pass them on to people. When Tindwyl dies, he's just, what's the point? None of them are going to bring her back. None of them promise me that her spirit still lives on. It didn't save Clubs, the religion that I convinced him that he would like. And knowing that everything I have ever read could have been manipulated, what's the point of believing anything ever again? So, the religious angst. If you've ever gone through it yourself, you know the feeling.
It's probably one of the most relatable moments for Sazed. At least for me. Anything you want to add to that?
Not really. We'll talk more about Sazed later, because there's a lot to say about that bit right there.
Yeah.
Spook has changed a fair bit. He's no longer the awkward kid, but he doesn't do a whole lot. He's kind of just there. Getting over the fact he's getting over his crush on Vin, because that's a lost cause. Why are you collecting the hearts if you're full?
Because there's no reason not to.
Okay, fair. But yeah, Spook does consider himself a coward because it's why he agreed to go with Vin and Elend when Sazed convinced everybody else that they needed to leave the city before the siege started, or before the battle started. So that's a lot to deal with. But yeah, he doesn't really have too big a role this time around.
Yep, he's really only present in a few scenes, and we really don't even ever get a section of the story from his perspective like we do with some of the other characters like Breeze, Ham, and then of course for lack of a better word, the primary characters of Vin, Ellen, and Sazed.
Alright, so let's take a look at our new characters. Where should we start there? Well, besides Tindwyl.
Let's start with Dimmu, since he's kind of a simple one.
Alright, we met him last time. He was one of the soldiers being trained. Now he's basically leading the army. Vin suspects him of being the mole because she can't test him for says if he can do allomancy because he's not a mystic. So that's fun. turns out he's just really, really bought into the survivor religion, the one that worships Kelsier, that Vin is very uncomfortable with because they see her as a divine figure.
As we come to find out in this story, they see Sazed that way too. They see him as the first witness. And he's not super cool with that. Especially when the changing text changes one of the titles given to the person writing the original message to that to try and lure Sazed into a sense of complacency by associating his new title with this ancient one.
Yeah. But yeah, he's fine.
Yep.
Alrian.
Alrian.
I love Alrian. Or as Vin calls her, what was that pink thing that just went by? Alrian Set is the daughter of Lord Set, but one of the ones besieging Luthadel, is in love with Breeze, and is both a consummate liar and a very skilled rioter. And while the entire group is giving Breeze all sorts of crap about she's like 18 at most, what is wrong with you, you dirty old man, she's been rioting him the entire time. Set just says, like, I don't care if you keep her or not. Like, it's not my business if she seduced your friend. Wait, she seduced him? Yeah, she does this. A lot. But yeah, just at the end, like, after everybody spends the entire time just assuming she's just kind of an airhead, they're like, no, she was gathering intel the entire time she was there for Set. It's great. Don't
like
write Barbie
boss.
off. Barbie can do anything.
We do note that Breeze eventually just gives in.
Yep. Now this is a good segue to Lord Set.
Ashweather Set
is a very blunt man.
He is Lord of the Eastern Dominance?
I thought it was Northern.
No, Northern is where...
Okay, Coppermine says Western.
Okay, Western. Yeah,
we're both wrong!
Yeah, Northern is where Straff had established himself. I remembered that.
Yeah, he is also disabled, having lost the use of his legs in an accident when he was younger.
Illness.
I thought it was an accident, but yeah. So point is,
childhood illness.
Okay, my bad. But yeah, he's incredibly blunt, and also very brazen. Like, as Vin discovers to her horror after she has slaughtered like a third of his army, you came here with like no Allomancers. Yep.
And the few ones he did have, he spent on an early move that did not pan out.
It almost did, because it did make Vin use up the very last of her ATM. Not that anybody knew that, except for Vin.
And Zane. Zane figured it out, which we'll get to him.
Yep.
But yeah, Set is blunt and crass, but he is fairly clever, and he's good at letting himself be underestimated.
Yep. Purposefully rude to throw people off balance.
Yep, he eats a very sloppy, messy meal because he knows that it'll make Elend upset.
Yep. You gotta love characters like that sometimes. Like, sometimes it's nice to know exactly what you're dealing with rather than playing all of the mind games.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, I'm playing mind games. They're harmless mind games, but they're gonna drive you nuts, and that'll throw you off balance. He gets himself in the running to be elected king, which I'm still gonna go over that and just be like, you don't... Call it something else. It's not a king if you're being elected. That's just me, though. Puts himself in the running to be elected king of Luthadel so he doesn't have to take it over. Not a bad move. Can't you use your boomerang?
No, Boomerang doesn't deal lethal damage.
Tell it to Sokka.
Well, I'm not Sokka, I'm Link.
Doesn't the shadow appear under the real one?
Is that how you tell the difference?
I don't know, I've never played this one.
I hadn't even noticed the shadow. Thank you for pointing that out, I hadn't seen it.
I thought you'd known it because you were the one who played this before.
Yeah, like 20 years ago.
Well, it's more than I've played it.
I know how to meet him, though.
I'm glad to have helped.
Yeah, thank you for noticing that. I was too busy trying to stay alive.
I didn't want to say anything because I don't like to backseat game. But yeah, Set does see reason, and when Vin basically just, steamrollers over Venture's army with Kolos, gets his agreement to, I'll acknowledge Ellen as Emperor. He's not going to like that you're doing this. He's not here. Valid point. On the condition that Ellen help reclaim the city that was taken from him, which is why they're out here in the first place. I guess that should bring us to Zane.
Yep. So Zane is another of Strathventure's bastards. He is therefore he is half-brother to Ellen.
Who doesn't know about this until later.
Yep. And he is a Mistborn. An extremely powerful one, who is also, at least he believes in his own mind, insane. He hears voices telling him to kill basically everyone. Except for Vin. And because the voices don't tell him to kill Vin, he assumes Vin is something special, which admittedly she is. And that they have some kind of special connection. Zane is obsessive. He believes that since he and Vin have this connection, that Vin doesn't belong in the world of... Okay. In the same world as people like Ellen. The world of politics and dealing with wars and all of that. And he tries on several occasions to get Vin to run away with him. And then when Vin eventually, fully decides on her feelings towards the land and tells Zane that she's not interested in leaving him, that's when Zane tries to kill her for real. All of their prior skirmishes and conflicts being basically little more than testing and little skirmishes, and from Zane's perspective, kind of seen as more like a kind of a courtship dance, or a sort of a bonding experience with Vin.
He does also inadvertently show Vin how to beat ATM when you don't have any. You just if you see that they're changing based on something you haven't done yet, change what you were about to do, and they get confused and give you an opening. And that's how he dies.
Yep.
So I guess we should probably talk about Strath, because we've been putting that off.
Yeah.
Straff is an abusive megalomaniac, and he sucks. This is going much faster, isn't it?
I mean, when you can put it down to a few words, it makes it much easier.
I meant the battle.
Yeah, knowing how to notice which one's real made it much easier.
I'm still just surprised that you didn't see that.
I was too focused on staying alive.
Anyway, yeah, Straff, yeah, mistreats his entire family. Like, we thought he was bad with Ellen, but given that he's deliberately cultivated his own little personal army, don't you need to get that little puff of smoke thing?
No, that's a teleporter. Takes me back to the entrance.
Gotcha.
What I seek is in the eye. Oh, I saw a thing earlier that looked like an eye.
Yeah, focuses...
Yeah, this thing.
Yeah, pretty heavily on just... Everything is about control and power. Outright tells Ellen that, like, if he had control of Vin, he would not let her wear as much clothing as Ellen does, just to try and tick him off. And keep showing off, like, oh look, I can have people dress up nice for me too, and all that kind of crap. Just, you know, power play stuff. Because it's all he knows how to do.
He is a skilled man, but he is also a very simple man with very basic wants and needs. He wants power, he wants influence, and he wants to make people fear him and to have control and power over them.
Yeah, bitches and bling, we get it.
I hate that that is accurate.
But yeah, that's basically it. There's not a whole lot of depth to the man. Like, we said earlier, he's the worst. That basically sums him up. Like, even the force of destruction that Vin has let out is more interesting.
Slingshot!
Yay! Yeah, is there anything else we need to talk about?
I feel like there's a character we missed.
I mean, Marsh has gone crazy, but we don't really know why. That's about it.
Yeah, we have Marsh, and we have the Mist Spirit, which is this translucent, humanoid-shaped thing in the mist that Vin keeps seeing. And it's not really explained in this story. We'll find out later what its deal is. But
put it this way, it wants to help Vin and it doesn't like Ellen. That can probably narrow it down, if you know what I mean.
But yeah, on the one hand, it keeps pointing Vin towards useful information. On the other hand, it literally stabs Ellen in the stomach.
So, you know, there's that. But yeah, I think that basically wraps up our character run-through. And we'll get into nitty-gritty stuff next time.
Yep, see y'all then.